Hello, niche website builders. Welcome back.
Hello.
Oh, it's done that thing for me again, where it like just suddenly like stops working on the as soon as the music stops. But anyway, I can hear you through the computer. That's fine. I'll sort that out in a minute. So yeah, welcome back, everybody. Today we have Eleanor with us. You may have noticed, who's the unbearded one on the.
Should we put Eleanor in the middle, so who's like surrounded by beards, maybe?
Surrounded by beards. At least we're like, oh, we could do that, and then she really will be surrounded by beards.
Now there's some, balance.
So Eleanor, if you may or may not have come across her already. So Eleanor works at Niche Website Builders. She's a website investing specialist. If you have been paying particular attention to our age domains on the website, then you would have seen her doing some of her thoughts about the domains and what you can do with them. So she's been doing such a good job. We thought that we would also bring her onto the show to do the age domain teardowns as well. So welcome, Eleanor, to your.
Thank you. It's really
not your first time on, right? You've been a guest on before, but it's your first.
I was actually,
the co-host, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. How's everything going then with you, Adam?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. Interesting thing happened last night. I say interesting, it was more of a funny thing, embarrassing thing now I think of it. We went to the park after we finished yesterday. We just got there and the park was empty and there was a bench with just like
I can't believe you're sharing this. I was embarrassed for you yesterday.
It's like a bag of crisps and some chocolate on there. Like there's no one in the park. I was like, whose are these? Like, what's going on? Who left these here? So I was starving as well because we hadn't had dinner and I was like, I'm so hungry. So I just started like eating them. And then before I knew it, they were all gone. And then before I knew it, they were kids coming out of the trees, like shouting. I was like, oh my God, they're theirs. They're sweets. We got to get out of here. And then we ran away.
Dude, who eats stuff they find in a park? Like, who eats
Not
stuff
normally,
they find out on the
it
street?
was Cadbury's chocolate buttons, which were like, oh, they were lush. So yeah, I don't know.
Did the kids chase after you? Like, what happened? Like, did you get away?
Nah, I don't even think they noticed because they were coming out of the trees. They weren't shouting at us. They were just like playing. I was like, oh, we've got to go now. Park was like, why have we got to go? Like, we've got to go now. We've just got to leave the park right now.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's my week so far.
How about you, Eleanor? How's it going?
Yeah, it's been a good week. It's been busy. Me and Adam are still working on this secret project. So that's quite interesting to be doing.
Is it the secret one that's secret, or is it the secret one that's not really secret? Because Adam did it a few times.
It's that one.
It's the not secret one. It's the not secret project.
So yeah, but yeah, it's been a busy week. It's been good. Not really much except just just doing some work and working on the secret project.
Awesome. Do you want to share what the secret project is that's not secret? Just I guess we're keeping people wondering now. So. But
it was that project that we are basically collecting a big data of loads of sites in different niches, and this will basically help us estimate how many posts and how much content or links you need to achieve X amount of traffic, and which obviously means achieving X amount of revenue. So it's a really exciting project, to be honest, and I really can't wait until we fully wrap it up and have the data to show people, really. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't think I've seen some projects in the past, but I don't think I've seen a project like specifically like this, which is going to give a really good indication of like from a particular niche what you could expect in terms of traffic, depending on your domain authority, depending on and earnings based on that traffic as well. So I think it's going to be good. I think.
Yeah.
Cool. So I've still got sore legs, like really hurting me. I'm pissed off. Like it's if you were on yesterday's stream, I've got cellulitis, which I didn't even know existed before.
What's this?
Before earlier in the week, it's like a bacterial infection, but it's like of the skin. So it's an inflammation of the skin, just really sore. You need antibiotics to get rid of it, but it can be really serious if it's not left to be treated.
Mhm.
It's really sore, but then I'm taking antibiotics and they're just making me feel worse. Like, I've never felt ill on antibiotics before, but I did this time. I actually feel worse than when I started taking them. But hopefully it's going to wrap things up. I actually feel less capable of doing stuff than I did before and just not having good sleep and stuff. So I just can't wait to be outside the end of them, to be honest. I'm done. I'm done with that.
Hopefully, it should start getting better soon, right? Because we've been on them for a couple of days now. So
I hope so. I'm on holiday next week, so I went to the doctor today to get an extra week's worth of antibiotics in case I need them, because I had a spider bite a couple of years back, and that kind of, my skin got infected and inflamed then, and I needed 2 weeks. And I was like, I don't want to be away on holiday and then need more antibiotics. That'd just be a nightmare. I'm just hoping I am better because I can enjoy the holiday to the full, because we went on holiday at Easter only for 4 nights, 5 nights. I got COVID like the day before I left, so I just added like a COVID holiday in Easter, and it's like, okay, this is the next one. This is the summer one. Can look forward to it. And now this shit comes along, and I'm like, oh, seriously? So yeah, I'm hoping it all gets wrapped up by the weekend. We're going on Monday, so got a few more days for it to start
to recover.
So anyway, so who have we got here already? We've got Birdie, we've got Tim, we have got Brian and Chris and Carly. Carly's sent over her picture with her merch, which is fantastic. I'm not sure if we put that in yet. I might put it in whilst the other guys are talking in a minute. And we got Tony and Ed. So welcome back, everybody. Today's show, we're going to be talking about how to sell your website. But before we get into that, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping. So if you're new around here, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. The more people we get, the more people we get on the stream, the more people YouTube shows it to. Happy for everybody. If we get enough likes, then by the end of the show, I still can't stand this. 35 likes by the end of the show, then we'll do a merch giveaway for some merch. I haven't got the mug, I've got the cap. By the end of this, yeah, so there you go. So yeah, hit the like button, get to 35 likes. We'll do a draw at the end of the show. What else should I talk about? Building Empires. If you didn't see the event in June, we had an event in June, first ever Building Empires event. We had lots of great speakers talking about how to grow profitable websites and make money online. You can go and check out the replays at building.empires.live, but also we have already announced the second event, which is in January, February, which is going to be bigger and better. So also, you can also register for that at building.empires.live. And as always, there's a link in the description for the latest niche website builders deal. So go and head down there if you are thinking about picking up one of our services, and you can get a deal on it. Right. So as I say, we're going to talk about how to sell your website, which Adam's going to start talking about, and we're also going to have Eleanor doing the Age Domain teardown. So we'll start with the how to sell your website presentation, and I'll let Adam take over from here.
Cool. Can you remove that caption mark?
Yeah, I can. I was trying to find the other one. There it is.
Awesome. So first things first, happy anniversary to Tony. I know it's, I can't remember how many years you've been together, Tony. I did see you on Facebook. So enjoy your night at the Celtic Manor. I know they do nice food there and the rooms are nice. I'm sure you'll have a lovely time. Okay, so I've made a presentation which I'm gonna present on not how to sell your website, but just like a broad overview of selling your website, kind of from start to finish, really. And it'll go through lots of different kind of aspects of selling your website. So first thing to know when you're selling your website is, and the first thing anybody asks is, I've got a website, how much is my website worth, or how much should I be looking to sell my website for? And there's a formula for it. It's a fairly simple formula, and it goes last X month's profit times a multiple equals your website valuation. So it's broken down into 2 parts, really. It's the average profit over a certain period of time, and then a multiple which is applied to that. So the last X months profit is an average profit over a given period of time. And typically, sites are valued on 6 to 12 months period of that time. So you've got a 6-month average or a 12-month average. I mean, very rarely will people buy on a smaller average. Very rarely will people buy on a 3-month average. And Usually, if a website is growing, very rarely will a seller be willing to sell on more than a 12-month average either, because if a site is growing, the shorter the time period, the higher the average then. So 6 to 12 months is typically average for that time period. And then we've got a multiple, and this is used to determine how many times the average a site should be valued at. And I'm going to show some interesting data in the next couple of slides, but at the moment, and this number changes, the range varies from 35x to 45x. Some brokers like Empire Flippers are going up as high as 50, 55, even as high as 60x. But what we don't know from those is they're valuing them at those kinds of multiples, and they're listing them, but we don't know what they're actually selling for. We don't know what their final sale price is once they've been negotiated down. But I think typically values range from 35 to 45x at the moment. One thing to mention, I put it there on the left, typically the multiple is dependent on the quality of the website. So you might ask yourself, am I at the 35x or am I at the 45x? And that can vary from, what kind of niche it is. Is it in a very high value niche? Is it in the VPN niche? Is it in the subscription space, software subscription space, for example, where you're reviewing software that provides reoccurring income for the lifetime? Or is the site in the pet space or using just display ads, for example? Or it could be to do with the backlink profile. Does the website that you're selling have a backlink profile that is really hard to replicate and come by? Does it have links from New York Times or Forbes and things like that, which are very hard to acquire, therefore giving you a better backlink profile than most average sites? Does it come with digital products? Does it come with other additional assets? Does it come with a Facebook group or a YouTube channel? All these things factor into how high or low your multiple will be. There's no kind of guide on this, by the way. There's no tick box which says, if you've got a Facebook group, then you add one. And if you've got a YouTube channel, then you add another one. If you've got digital products, then you add another one. You kind of put it up for what you feel like, but then probably be prepared to negotiate down from there, really. So example here is a site making $5,000 per month on average over the last 12 months would typically be valued at between $175,000 and $225,000. So you can see the range is actually quite massive, 175 to 225. So when you are building your websites, it's always good to think about what additional things can you add in? How can you make your site better than the average? So when you come to sell it, you can command those higher multiples. While we're on the topic of multiples, I pulled out some data, and this is only up until 2020 because it uses the state of the I can't remember what it's called. State of the
Nation? Is it
no state of the something by Empire Flippers. It's the report they put out at the end of every year, which says the state or data from the business.
State of the industry.
State of the industry. That's it. Yeah. So on the right-hand side there, you can see that we've got types of sites: Amazon Associates, display ads, and affiliate. And you can see the average multiple that was listed on Empire Flippers in 2017 versus 2020. So Amazon Associates have gone up from 26x to 40x, display advertising from 23 to 34, and affiliate from 23 to 36. And we know that that's probably higher now based on the last couple of years data that they have there, which they haven't released yet. And then the other thing I thought was interesting was, again, just the volume of sales, how that's increased. And this is just through Empire Flippers, not through any of the marketplace or private deals or anything. Amazon Associates sites have almost tripled from 3 million to 8.6 million. Display advertising has gone up incredibly, magnitude of tens of times, 180,000 to 3.3 million. And affiliate 1.3 to almost 2 million. But what this shows is website valuations are increasing, which is a fact. And website investing, at least people that are buying and selling on Empire Flippers, is becoming more and more popular. And in just 4 years, from 2017 to 2020, website multiples have increased on average 53%. And I wanted to pull out some data which shows, even if you did nothing to your website, even if you just bought in 2017 and maintained the revenue, what that would look like. And I'm aware this has nothing to do with selling, by the way. I just put these next two slides in because I thought there was interesting data on multiples while we're on the topic. So stock market, I went onto a website and I looked at the Dow Jones Industrial Average, the US stock market from 2017 to 2020. and the average return through those dates, if you just invested $10,000, was 23% ROI. So you just put your money into the stock market over the same period of time, and you make 23% return during those 4 years. And if you were to do buy-to-let property, I pulled out some data. So according to the Global Property Guide, the average gross rental yield is 3.6 in the US. So assuming that you get a mortgage and you put a down payment of 25%, your return, if you put the same money into a buy-to-let property, would be 28%. So basically, literally, if you just bought a website in 2017 and you held it and you didn't increase the revenue through to 2020, you would have made double the amount of money than you would have if you'd put your money in the stock market or into property. So imagine how much that return could be if you were adding value to the website. And obviously you want to do that because this is about selling. And the whole aim of this is to increase the value and to sell the asset at some point in time. So when it comes time to sell your website, so when you've gone through the process, you've built the site, you've bought the site, you've improved it, you're ready to sell, one of the first things you should probably look at is when you speak into potential buyers, we see this question get asked a lot, is like, what should I be sharing? What access should I be giving? Kind of what things should I be preparing, ready to give to someone that's interested in potentially buying my business, for them to do their due diligence and for them to evaluate the business. So before we get on to that, one thing I'll just mention is deals of certain sizes, I think, would require an NDA or proof of funds. I've never personally used an NDA, like a non-disclosure agreement, but I've used proof of funds. I've asked for proof of funds in the past. And these, as a seller, protect you. If you are doing something that's outside of the norm, or you're doing something that you think is really hard to replicate, you would probably want to get someone to sign an NDA before you give that information away to potential buyers, because just because they do their due diligence, there's no guarantee that they are going to then carry through. They could literally look at your data, look at your website, look at any plans or data you share with them, and then take that and start their own website, or they may have a competing website that you don't know about and apply it there. So you should always think, do I need an NDA for this? Should I be getting an NDA for this? And also, should I be asking for proof of funds if it's above a certain value? I always find asking for proof of funds kind of stops the tire kickers. Especially if you're trying to sell the deal privately, there's a ton of people that will come and ask for details, information. And you say, we've got proof of funds first. And they'll say, well, nothing normally, you just don't reply. So it's a good way of kind of vetting out, but it's also a good thing for safety and security for you too. So when it comes to sharing Google Analytics, I took some screenshots of how you should do it correctly to give the buyer the right access. So step one is to go into your Google Analytics account, and in the bottom left, click on the admin tab. And then step two is to click view access management. Now, it's important here that you only do this in the view tab. When you click on admin, there'll be 3 sections. This view section is on the farthest right. And this just gives them access to view that one website, the only view that's in there. If you give them access to the property or anything like that, they can view other websites that you might have in your analytics account, depending on how you set it up. So it's really important that you only give them access in this view section right here. And then when you do give them access, so you click on add in the top right, you give them viewer access. This just means that they get read-only access. They can't go in and they can't take control of the account. They can't remove users or add other users. They can't change any events in there if you've set up tracking or anything like that. All they can do is view the data, and they can't make any nasty changes. So that's the way to give access to Google Analytics. Similar in Search Console. Some buyers will want access to Search Console. They'll want to make sure there's no penalties or anything like that. I think that's really rare these days, but it just kind of backs up the data in analytics. So lots of buyers will these days ask for Search Console access. So again, go to the bottom left, click on settings, and then go to users and permissions. And similar to the other, when we add into as analytics, you want to, I think this is the wrong screenshot. I don't know why this is in here. I didn't put the Search Console screenshot in here, but it's pretty much exactly the same. You give them, I think it's called limited access or restricted access. That's the same as viewer access in Search Console. So there's no issues giving people. I always see people asking in Facebook groups and questions about, is there any problem me giving someone Google Analytics access or Search Console access? I don't think so. As long as you set them up the right way and just give them read-only or view access, that's totally fine. And most buyers will expect to have that kind of access to do their due diligence anyway. And then the other thing you want to get ready is proof of revenue. This is critical, I think. As a buyer, the first thing they're going to want to see is obviously Google Analytics to make sure that the traffic is there, but they also want to see that the revenue is there and it's real. Anybody can just take a screenshot of a spreadsheet and say, this is the revenue of the website, but you need to prove that, you need to back that up. So at the very least, you want to start collecting screenshots of your revenue. But ideally, you want to start making video walkthroughs for every revenue source. And that includes display ad network. So if you're with Ezoic or Mediavine, log in, do a screen share, use Loom. They've got a free account. I think you can record for 5 minutes for free on a free Loom account. Log in, navigate to the site, go back in time, show like a display of month by month the revenue for each revenue source, just so it just puts the buyer's mind at ease that they can see that. Some buyers, especially on larger websites, will also ask to set up a call where you can do a live screen share with them. So you'll jump on a Zoom call with them, share your screen. They'll ask you to go into certain aspects on maybe on your Ezoic account to show them the payout history or the breakdown month by month or the EMPV or things like that, just so they can verify that the revenue is real. And same for Amazon Associates and different affiliate networks that you have. If you have any course sales, they might be run through a platform or that you might be running them through like WooCommerce. So start preparing those kinds of reports, any PDFs you can download, that kind of stuff. And basically just gather your evidence and gather your proof of all the revenue sources that you have. And then once you've done that, you'll want to create a profit and loss statement. And when you say that, some people can think, oh my God, I'm not an accountant. Like, what is a profit and loss statement? It's really simple. And I've got an example on the next screen for you, but it's just a spreadsheet that breaks down your income and your expenses. And depending on the website, most websites, the expenses are going to be quite basic stuff. They're going to be things like your hosting, your domain renewal, like any technology that you use. So if you use MailChimp and you've got an email list and you have to pay for MailChimp every month, then that might be in there. If you use any premium plugins, if you use a premium theme that needs to be renewed every year, for example, anything like technology-wise, which is reoccurring or you need to run the business, needs to be in there. Any advertising costs, like if there's any Facebook or Google ad spend, which is driving traffic to the website, that needs to be accounted for. But the main thing that is not included in these expenses is content or link building. So the way to think about this is your expenses and your profit and loss are expenses that if you didn't pay, the business couldn't function tomorrow. So if you didn't pay your hosting tomorrow, the website would go offline. And if you didn't renew your domain tomorrow, the website would go offline. And if email marketing is driving a big chunk of your revenue and you didn't pay your MailChimp, then you would lose that revenue source, for example. And if your website relies on advertising traffic from Facebook or Google, and you didn't pay the ad spend, like the website wouldn't function or wouldn't be the same website. With content and link building, that's like a sunk cost. If you stopped adding content to the website today, the website doesn't fall down tomorrow. The website doesn't stop working tomorrow or anything. And over time, that content the website, it will over time lose value if you don't add new content or do new link building. But in the short to medium term, that's not really a thing. So it doesn't include content or link building costs. So this is an example of what a P&L would look like. You've got your income at the top, and you should break it down by all of the different sources. So in this case, display ads, Amazon Associates, and share a sale. And then you break it down month by month, and then you add them all up to give you total income. And then underneath, then you add up all your costs. So the hosting cost is every month. The domain renewal is once a year. The ConvertKit is every month. And then you add up your total costs, and that gives you total profit for the month. And the valuation is based on that total profit number at the bottom there. So when you do your average 6 months or average 12 months, it's the average 6 or 12 months of this profit level times a multiple. Typically, that's how you would value your website. So now you've got all that stuff together, you've started collecting all your stuff, you know how to give access and what you should be giving access to. Like where should you look to start selling your website? And there's two main places. One is to find a private buyer. and the other is to use a marketplace or a brokerage. So marketplace and brokerage, things like Empire Flippers or Investors Club or FE International, those kinds of places where you list your website for sale, and a private buyer, obviously you don't do that, you find them yourself, and you handle the transaction yourself. But there's pros and cons for each of them. So private deals can be awesome. I've sold many websites privately, but they typically come with risks. Risks, pros and cons. But there's a lot of risks, especially if you are new to selling a website. If you find a private buyer, it's quite risky, to be fair. There's a lot of things you need to be aware of, but there are some pros. For me, the biggest pro of selling your website privately is there's no broker fee, which can be huge. Like, broker fees they're anything from 10 to 20%. And on large website sales, that can represent a massive chunk of revenue. If you're selling your website for 200,000 and the broker is taking 10%, then you're going to give them 20 grand. It's a lot of money to lose. So my first point of call whenever I'm going to sell a website is, can I sell it privately first? Can I avoid that brokerage fee? Can I avoid paying that 20 grand, for example? The other things I like about selling privately is speed. With a broker, it typically takes time to sell. It'll take time to get the website listed. It'll take time to go back and forth with the buyer, because usually they're involved in the middle. They ask the broker questions, the broker asks you, and there's this time delay. When you're selling privately and you're dealing direct with the buyers, you can sell a site really quickly. I've sold websites in the past within 24 hours if they can do their due diligence quick enough. And you're dealing directly with the buyer. And I think that brings me on to my next point, is you do deal directly with the buyer. And some buyers are not just looking for one-off assets or one-off websites. They are maybe building a portfolio, or they are doing this as a living, and you get to form relationships with them. I've sold websites to the same person multiple times. One person has bought several of my websites in the past, and that's only because I've formed a relationship with them, and I know them, and they know the sites I've sold them in the past, and we've kind of got this working relationship now, where if I feel like I've got a site for sale that would fit into their portfolio, I can reach out to them first and foremost, and I don't have to try and find a buyer. I can skip the broker fee and go that way. But like I said, it is risky, and there are definite cons when you are trying to sell a website privately. So when you are doing this, you have to negotiate the sales price yourself. Typically, a broker would do that for you. You have to manage the financial transaction, and the larger the sale, the more complicated this could be. Most websites sell just for a straight fee, but on bigger sites, you can do seller financing, or they can do payout terms where they'll pay for the website over a period of time, and that can get really complicated and messy, and you need contracts and be able to enforce those kinds of payments in the future. And if you are selling privately, then you have to manage all that yourself. All that risk is on you. And also you have to manage the transfer of the domain and assets. You have to figure out who is going to transfer the website files. Is the buyer capable of setting up hosting on their own and moving things over? What happens if they don't know how to accept my domain name transfer, for example? All these things you've got to consider and take into account if you're selling privately. The other point, or the other con, is it's really hard to find genuine buyers, especially above a certain price. For the lower end kind of sales, it's not so hard. It's not so difficult. And I think it's kind of like $50,000 or less. I've sold websites within Facebook groups for that, and there seems to be a good appetite within groups for that. Anything above that, there definitely are buyers in there, but they're really hard to find. It's like you have to speak to 30 tire kickers to find one genuine person that might be interested in the website above certain levels. I personally found, which brings me on to my next point. Is it's really time intensive. You have to answer lots of questions. You're going to end up giving access to Google Analytics and Search Console to lots of people who you've no way of verifying apart from asking if they got proof of funds. You don't know if they are there to just look at your site or anything like that. And it's a real time drain. But I've got a tip at the end of the presentation on how to overcome that if you wanted to go down this route. Where to find buyers privately? So like I said, I have so many sites privately, and it's not easy to find them. But there's Facebook groups out there. We own one. It's called Niche Website Flippers. I think there's about 14 or 15,000 members in there now who are posting websites for sale and trying to buy websites. But like I say, it's very hit and miss in there. For every 30 people you speak to, only a few will be actually genuinely interested in your site or have the funds, or so it can become quite tedious. But Facebook groups is the first place I look. I always try and create a detailed post on everything about the website, the earnings, breaking it down by month, kind of anything that I want that I think would go into like a website listing. I put in the post and put on the Facebook groups. Networking, become friends with other site owners. So join different groups, try and get involved. And like I say, once you've got a network of people, especially people who you know are buying and selling websites or operators of websites, you can reach out to them then and see if they're interested in buying a site directly off you if you are selling a site. And then the other point then is to get yourself out there. So if you've bought and sold sites in the past, maybe go on podcasts and talk about your experience, write guest posts about it, just get your name out there, and that adds a level of trust. So when you do come time to sell a website, private buyers like, oh yeah, I've seen that guy. That guy was on so-and-so podcast, or I've seen that guy being really helpful in Facebook groups. He might be selling a really quality website. I should check it out. And that just attracts a higher quality of buyer if you're trying to find them privately. With a website brokerage, so while marketplaces and brokerages can be expensive, they also, I think, play a very big and important part in selling certain websites. And I think there's definitely more pros than cons with these, especially if it's your first time. So pros are they're experts, their expertise. They've sold hundreds, sometimes thousands of websites. They've been through this process lots and lots of times. They've answered the same questions that most buyers have. They've encountered probably every problem that you would encounter when you are selling a website, and they know how to overcome that. You don't have to figure that out yourself. You can lean on their expertise. They also handle the negotiation, typically, the financial transaction. So there's no need to worry about, am I going to get paid for this, or how do I structure this deal? What about contracts, etc. And then usually they'll transfer the domain and the assets. They'll update the affiliate code and that kind of stuff. So you don't have to worry about anything technical. You don't have to worry about how you transfer stuff. You don't have to worry about domain names or, oh my God, I've transferred the domain name, but I didn't get paid. Now I've lost the website, for example. They also have a list of qualified buyers, which is really, it's the opposite of like the Facebook group, for example. The Facebook group, there's people in there that are interested, but they're not qualified. Most brokers will qualify their buyers. For example, Empire Flippers makes them pay a deposit on the website before they can see any details. And that just makes them qualified. If they're going to pay a chunk of money just to see the full details of the website, then in my eyes, they're qualified. They're motivated to actually buy the website. They're not just there to look and kick the tires. Same for places like Investors Club. You have to pay a fee to join Investors Club, and it just keeps out people that are not super serious about buying websites. And then the last one, then, this is the opposite of selling privately. Aside from getting the site listed, there's not much of a time drain. They will typically take the time up front to understand your business, to understand the website, and then they will answer the questions from potential buyers. If they're not sure of something, they'll come back to you, but the mundane questions which you get asked, then they will answer them from buyers. The only two biggest cons really for using a website brokerage is the fee, kind of like we mentioned. This ranges from like 10 to 20%, and on large deals, it can be huge. But they do take care of a lot of those things. They take away a lot of the headache. So you can justify that the fees are justified. They're fair at certain levels, I think. My only other downside and kind of con with website brokerage as well is time. I recently tried to list a website with Investors Club, and they said it would take 5 weeks to verify the documents and get the site live. Like 5 weeks. That's over a month just to get the site live, and then from there, then you've got to negotiate and that kind of stuff. So probably looking at like 2 months minimum before you sell the website, which I think is quite a long time, considering you can sell a site privately within a day, really, on the shortest time period. So they're my only two gripes, I think, with website brokerages. But especially on large deals, you need them. You need them for their blacklist of buyers. You need them for their contacts. You need them to handle kind of like the larger aspects of finances and transactions and assets and stuff. So these are, I think they have their uses. They're useful. So This is assuming now, obviously, that you're not going through a brokerage, because they will handle the financial and transfer of assets. But if you did sell a site privately, if you had a smaller site maybe that you sold privately, these are the things that you would need to do after you've agreed the sale price and you've sold the website to someone. So you need to initiate escrow, you need to transfer the assets, and you would then typically agree to an inspection period. So escrow, for pretty much any deal you do, I highly recommend that you always use an escrow service. And if you don't know what an escrow service is, it's basically this third-party middleman that is separate from you and the buyer. And the buyer sends the money to escrow. Escrow holds the money safe. You as a seller transfer the website and domain over to the buyer. They verify everything, and then escrow releases the money back to you minus a small fee for doing that. And it just keeps both you and the buyer safe, because if the buyer doesn't pay, then that's fine. Nothing happens. You haven't sent anything without the buyer and the funds being secured. If on the other side the website isn't what the buyer was expecting, the revenue doesn't match or something's wrong with the site, they've also got a level of safety there to go back and fall back on. We always recommend you to use escrow.com. It's probably one of the main ones out there. And they take a fee. I pulled out the fees. It's really small. On anything less than $30,000, it's 1%. On anything more, it's 0.98%. So the fees are relatively small in comparison to the security you get. The only hard part about this is escrow doesn't work in certain countries. So it doesn't work in Pakistan, for example. I've both bought and sold websites in Pakistan, and in those instances, you have to work with the person that you are buying or selling the website to. In this case, I've asked them to send the money first, and then I will transfer the assets. But it's really risky on both sides. So I'm not sure how I would recommend you proceed there. It's very risky without using an escrow service. Once the money's in escrow, then you've got to do transfer of assets. And like I say, if you're not using a broker to manage this, you're going to need to consider who is going to transfer the domain and the assets. Will the seller do this, or are you going to help them? And there's lots of things you need to consider here. So first one is the domain transfer, and it's fairly straightforward. If you're going from one domain registrar to another domain registrar, typically you're just going to need like the username of the other person, and then the transfer is instant. If it's going from one domain registrar to a different one, then you're going to need to give them an authorization code, and it can take a couple of days to do that. But that one is relatively straightforward. It's the next two which can be a bit of a ball ache, which is website files and the databases. So you've got a couple of options. Some hosting companies, for my own websites, I use a company called WPX Hosting. They offer a free migration service. I tell them that I've bought a website. These are the login details, or these are the FPT details. And they handle the whole migration. They just send me an email to say, great, we've migrated it. Update your name server to point here. You can also use plugins such as Updraft. That's just a plugin you use, take a backup of the website and restore it, or you can give the buyer FTP access on the server and they can transfer it that way. And then you've also got to think about other assets that you want to transfer, such as, do you have a Facebook group? You're going to have to transfer that to the new person. YouTube channels, Pinterest accounts, email list. Are you going to transfer your email list? If you sell digital products, how is all that going to be transferred over? So the more complex the website, the more difficult this job becomes. If it's simply a website with display ads and it's relatively straightforward, if you are having a massive email list and you sell digital products and you've got a YouTube channel, then it becomes a lot more complicated to get these assets transferred over. And then once everything's been transferred, the seller or the buyer will normally say, right, to escrow, right, I've got everything, I've got all the assets now, please start the inspection period. And this is just set time, like a set duration. I always use typically 7 to 10 days. It can be longer, it can be shorter. Some people don't have inspection periods at all, but I definitely recommend them. And that time is for you or for the buyer to then check the traffic, check the revenue, apply to ad networks, just make sure that everything is correct as per what they thought they were buying. They can inspect the website, they can look at the back end, they can, in all essence purposes, it's their website to check and verify and validate that they are buying what they thought they were buying. And I always recommend to put an inspection period as long as possible. This is always usually part of the negotiation. Like a seller will always want a short inspection period and a buyer will always want a long inspection period. But inspection periods can be extended or they can be ended early if both sides agree. So always try and push for a short inspection period if you're selling, because you want the funds sooner, and be prepared to negotiate on that part. And then once the inspection period is over, escrow releases the funds to the seller. That essentially is the transaction completed, unless you've agreed to give them some post-sale support. Maybe you've said you'll give them support for 30 days or something like that. But in all intents purposes, you've now transferred all the assets and you now have money on its way from escrow into your account for the asset. And this is probably my biggest tip when you are selling a website privately. I do this for every website and it saves a ton of time. One of the cons of selling privately I mentioned earlier was such a time drain. It's really time intensive to be answering questions, the same questions over and over. So I'll create a document that highlights key areas. And so I always create a Google document that covers key areas. It's easy to share with potential buyers and avoids you having to answer lots of questions. So I pulled out a real life example of lots of the parts that I would include in this document. It's a Google document. You can just share the link with them. So the URL and the asking price, and then some high level financial details, showing the monthly average over the last 12, 9, 6, and 3. And I like this because it just highlights if the site is on an upward trajectory, just shows that this is where it is. It's clearly going upwards. So, my asking 35 times the 6-month average is probably justified because it's increasing on a 9, 6, and 3-month average. I list out the monthly revenue breakdown. This just means when I give them screenshots, sometimes it's hard, especially like if it's Amazon Associates, for example. It's hard sometimes to see what the monthly breakdown is, or if it's got display ads and Amazon Associates, it's hard for someone from screenshots to add them both together and come up with the monthly. So this just gives it to them nice and easy. Total revenue broken down by month. And I always put a quick wins in there. So this is what if I was keeping the website, this is what I would do as my quick wins, the first things that I would do to increase the revenue. So in this case, it was enableamazon.com. It was a UK site. 10% of the traffic is from the US. And I included a screenshot from Google Analytics showing that 10% of the traffic is from the US. Update the site design as it was a little cluttered. Add more content. I just said 10,000 words have been added every month since May, and the content is ranking well. And then add display adverts. And I even went as far as estimating what I think the revenue would be based on a £10 RPM. And I did that going back as far, just to show that if they did do this, if they did do just one quick win, this is how much they could increase revenue by. I also included a little bit about no dependencies on a few pages. So instantly they know that there's no one page that's driving 50% of the traffic, for example. And in this case, this was really all of the key things, but anything that you think is really important or highlights why this is a good website. So if this had a Facebook group, then I also include has a Facebook group. This is a screenshot of the numbers from Facebook. This is the graph of how it's been growing. Same for, if you're at a YouTube channel or something like that. Anything that highlights this is a real good asset and this is a real good business, I would include in this document. It just gets people excited. If someone asks for information about the website, you send them this document, they read through it, they think, oh yeah, revenue's on its way up. And I can also implement these 5 quick wins, which I may not have thought of. Oh, and it comes with these different assets and they're growing. It just adds and gets them excited. And they think, yeah, I want this now. And that makes selling the site a lot easier rather than trying to someone coming to you and saying, oh, what would you do? Or having the knowledge to go in and have a look at Google Analytics or look up the Facebook account, but they don't have access to the back end to look at the graph going up straight away. It just gets them more interested and potentially ready to have that conversation about buying the website. And that's it that I've got here. The last slide is a bold prediction that I wanted to include. And this makes the case for selling a website now versus keeping it. Like how long do you keep a website? My prediction is website valuations are going to keep increasing. And by valuations, I mean that monthly, the multiple that goes up. I think, like I say, we've gone from 20, 25, 30x a couple of years ago to 35, 45x now. And just based on the average return for stocks and property that we looked at in our first graph, they could literally double and still be comparative. Now, I know investing in websites is probably more risky than investing in property in the stock market. So that's not to say they're ever going to reach the same kind of valuation there, but they could do. Oh, it could be very close. So it could double. It could go up another 50% or whatever. But I think there's increasing demand for digital assets, especially the type of websites that we build, that we work in, the area we work in. And I could do a whole presentation on how I think there's public companies coming out or venture capital coming in and trying to buy up these kinds of websites and fold them into their portfolio and stuff. But I just think that valuations will keep going up over time. And that's it. That is my presentation on things you should know and be aware of when you are looking to sell your website.
Awesome. There's no direct questions there. Oh, hang on. Hang on. There's one from Chris, actually. Let's pick this up. How much of a toxic link profile makes you say no? I tend to get scared off easily, especially with domains that have been through the ringer.
Yeah, it's a good question, Chris. It depends what you mean by toxic link profile. Do you mean you've just gone to like Majestic and got a spam score out and the spam score is high? Or do you mean you've actually gone through and manually checked the backlink profile and you can see that it's got bad links? And I'd also hesitate to say, how are you classifying toxic links? Are you including the typical scraper / spammy type websites as a toxic link? If you are, then I wouldn't worry about them. If a website's got links from, I don't know, anything to do with the adult space or gambling or casino or things like that, or obvious PBNs, you can see quite obviously are PBNs or things like that, then I would consider that to be toxic and I would want to know more. In those cases, I would want to know when those links were built and also the history of the actual website you're buying. Has it been around for 10 years? Have those links been on there for a long time? If they have, it's probably totally okay, but it just depends. I guess the answer is, unhelpfully, it depends. Really, yeah. To be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we don't have the service for buying websites, but if you're buying an H domain, we do have a service where we can do an audit of that domain for you. It's available on the Niche Website Builders website, but not yet for websites, but for H domains, we can kind of check out the backlink profile for you. Right, should we move on to the H domain teardowns with Eleanor?
Yep.
Eleanor, don't rush. We've got plenty of time. Like we're purposely doing an hour earlier because we've got more to fit in because we're not doing the Tuesday show. So there's no rush at all to like get through it. Like take your time. Okay. So yeah, which one would you like to do first?
Shall we do Bliss House Foods first, please?
Okay.
Okay. So yeah, as you can see, it's a vegan site. And based on the competitor, based on the industry put in there, it's a 5 years old H domain and it's a DR17. As you can see, it has 55 referring domains and some quite high quality backlinks in that mix as well. So I'm going to share my screen now. And okay, so I'm not going to go into the, can you see my screen? I'm not going to go into the backlinks because, actually I might. Because there are, as I said, there's only 55, but there are some really good ones. So I will show you. Okay, so let me just put highest to lowest. So the first ones immediately that stood out to me are wellandgood.com. So DR84, that's quite high authority. Tastemate, DR76, and a couple of more links down the line as well. But as I said, out of 54, we have 47 do follow. And considering the low amount of referring domains, we have some quality backlinks in here. The site was veganism and wellness. So that is why I like this link, because it is a niche relevant high authority backlink. Now I'm going to jump to the anchor text profile. The first thing that stood out to me immediately is look at how small and clean and tidy it is. So I feel that the referring domains highest to lowest. And typically, if you're looking at a natural looking anchor text profile, you'll typically see that the top anchor text are branded, or they have or their URL kind of naked URL anchor text. And as you can see, it's just very small, very clean, absolutely nothing spammy going on. I don't often see such small anchor text profiles, to be honest. But if you're wondering, like, what's this then? Well, this is the name of the person that used to own blisshousefoods.com. So in my opinion, this is good for EAT, which is expertise, authority, and trust. So what happens is, once we come to putting the site together, we'll typically recreate a persona, at least with the first name of the person that used to own that blog, because we wouldn't really want to call the person Brian afterwards and kind of confuse everything. We might want to keep that, might as well keep that. Obviously, we won't take the whole personality and put the picture of that person. That wouldn't be right. But we'll have like a person does not exist or something like that, and call them this name, because we can preserve all this, and I think it's worth preserving. So yeah, in terms of the anchor text profile, I think it's great. Very small, very tidy. In terms of the cleanup process, typically most H domains would require a cleanup process. So this domain is DR17. So if we want to retain that DR and authority, some of the backlinks may be pointed towards internal pages. So, but what we're seeing here, our filtered highest to lowest, we're seeing that the majority are pointed towards the homepage, which is great. There is literally almost no recreation, redirection will be required in this specific case. However, as you can see, some internal pages are, recipes and stuff that, we could potentially, recreate anyway, because, the site's about recipes and we'll be writing about recipes anyway, but really that will be optional, as a majority are on the homepage anyway. Okay, so this is what the site was about. Again, just as the anchor text profile, very clean, very tidy, very easy to navigate. I'm going to zoom a little bit because I want to show you something. So this is about. So this was the lady that I showed you earlier. She used to run this blog, and she was into veganism, healthy eating, etc. But she also did other things outside of the digital. She went outside into the physical world, and she offered cooking classes. She had food activism talks, vegan Nigerian pop-up dinners, and host Black Feast, a monthly vegan pop-up dinner celebrating Black artists, etc. So she really went out there and did other stuff, which I think could have, easily contributed to some of the exposure that she got and some of the quality backlinks that she got. This is just like a kind of guessing, but it could be the reason why she got some exposure. So yeah, the main event of the whole site was basically the recipes. And the gallery was just basically the images, the beautiful images that she took. If anyone was interested in the images, she had a gallery for it. And for the events, this was basically her diary of all the pop-ups and whatever here she did. So there's time and place and whatever took place that people could check out and go to her events. And then subscribe is, she had a newsletter. So you could subscribe to her newsletter, find the latest things that she's doing, posting or whatever. So I'm going to jump on the recipes now, as that was the main event of the site. She focused very heavily on the healthy kind of eating, but vegan as well. So we have soups, we have cookies and cream, hopefully healthy cookies and cream. And then just other really tasty looking treats that are healthy and vegan friendly. And yeah, this was pretty much the site. The vegan niche is most of you probably don't know, but the vegan niche is one of those niches that's kind of trending upwards. And it's a niche that I have known for a while. And I think the vegan niche is a niche that can be a niche that you can achieve a lot within it. And here's what I've done. So I've done a couple of filterings here on Ahrefs. And I just want to show you quickly, like, the amount of volume we have for certain vegan related terms. And the competition isn't so strong because we have a keyword difficulty of 4 on this one, 13 on that one. I wouldn't call this exceptionally difficult to compete with, especially this one. This is a KD of 6 and it has quite a lot of volume. And Sour Patch Kids are, I think, some sort of sweets. So there is a lot here that can be achieved and a lot that we could tackle and, get some huge volume and hopefully a lot of traffic. For vegan collagen, this is where we can monetize, because I understand it kind of falls into the kind of supplements, but collagen is a supplement that non-vegans and vegans take. And if you're a vegan and you're wondering, well, how am I going to have my collagen? Because a lot of people take collagen supplements. Well, you're going to ask this question, and this is a good way of us potentially monetizing with these types of questions. And then this is industrial vegan, is a type of vegan, which I don't agree. I don't think it's actually a vegan, but it's a type of vegan where a vegan only eats kind of meat, but only like really sustainable, made from your next door farmer, etc. But it has a huge amount of volume as well, and it's only KD of 2. Then we have another area that I was going to show you is the restaurant types of areas we could tackle. Like every single place or state in the USA or even other countries, especially if you're traveling as a vegan and you want to go out for dinner, you'll be asking yourself, well, where are the vegan restaurants? And this comes a really interesting thing we could be doing is, for example, we could put 10 best restaurants in Denver. Why not? And as you can see, they have a huge amount of volume, and the competition, isn't as strong. So there is definitely what I wanted to show you, what can be achieved within the vegan space and how big kind of the volume is. And another thing I want to point out is how anything that you could think of, the most ridiculous thing you could think of as a vegan, has a question mark on it and is a keyword. For example, are bananas vegan? I'm not even joking. You have everything, anything that you could think of. Are apples vegan? Is my washing machine vegan? Is my computer vegan? Anything you can think of is it vegan type of thing. And people are searching for it. And there is so many thousands and thousands of keywords with these types of questions that vegans are asking. And even the big guys aren't yet capable to cover all these topics because there are millions. And because this is a niche that's growing, more and more and more will appear as well. So there's a big opportunity for us to grow within the niche together and explore those big kind of new kind of coming keywords, and that we can really write about. There's so much to cover. Okay, so the first kind of competitor I would like to show you is veganfoundry.com. So remember, we were DR17. These guys are DR13, and they are doing an impressive amount of traffic. They're 75,000 according to Ahrefs, and as we all know, Ahrefs underestimates traffic. So yeah, these guys are making incredible amount of traffic. So let's take a look at what they are covering. They do have 657 pages, but if you think about it, for that amount of traffic, I'm happy. It's not incredible. It's not like 3,000 or 4,000 to achieve that traffic. 657 is quite decent, actually. Okay, so they are targeting quite a lot of informational pieces of content, very interesting types of content. So this could fall easily into our recipes, because meal replacement shakes is basically a smoothie that you drink instead of having a proper meal. Maybe you're on the go, maybe you don't have time to sit down and eat, and meal replacement shakes come into play. So there's a couple of ways you could do this. You can either make 10 best vegan recipes from meal replacement shakes, or you could make basically link people to buy meal replacement shakes, powders, or anything like that, or you could do both. Either way, I think this is a really good keyword, and we can definitely use that. Vegan gummy bears. So gummy bears, your typical gummy bears are not vegan because they contain gelatin. So if you like gummy bears and you've just turned vegan, you'll be asking yourself, well, what are the vegan gummy bears? And this is also an opportunity for monetization, not only informational pieces of content, but monetization as well. You can explain which are vegan, why the usual ones are not vegan, and link a couple of products and for vegan gummy bears, and people can buy, right? And then we have our Mott's Gummies Vegan. I don't know exactly what that is, but it has a question mark, so I think it's a question. And then dragon fruit, where to buy dragon fruit. So that's a really good keyword, and I'll tell you why. Because dragon fruit is kind of the vegan meat. A lot of vegan substitutions, particularly when it comes to cooking at home. Basically, jackfruit has just the right texture that makes it feel like it's meat. It's very it's very meaty, I guess. So a lot of vegans get introduced to jackfruit. So, and you look at the amount of traffic they're getting just from dragon fruit. So another thing we can easily cover. And again, this can fall into our recipes. For example, we answer where to buy jackfruit, and we have 50 of the best vegan jackfruit recipes. Then vegan Lay's, chips. Chips are these are American, I think. They're basically crisps in the UK. But people are wondering and they want to find out. And 500 volumes are 500 people are basically asking this. And yeah, this is basically what I want to show you for this specific kind of competitor, that there is just so many queries and so much traffic and so much that can be achieved with and this site has done this with considering its authority of only 13. And I believe the site was only about 3 years old. Yeah, around 3 years old. And as you can see, it's been growing nicely. So yeah, that's the first one. And the second one is vegancalm.com. It's another low kind of authority website that's doing very well within the space. It has 36,000. And let me show you what it's covering. So it has less pages. So it kind of shows that the more kind of pages you have, the better really for traffic. But it also depends on, how much, what your strategy is, what your keyword research is, etc. And what I want, the reason really why I'm showing you these competitors is because these guys have done pretty much the hard work. They've gone out there, they've done all the keyword research, and they have, drafted these articles, pushed them out there. And, you and me are just coming here and we're checking these out. We're like, oh, that's great. They're making so much traffic. What's the strategy? And we can look at what sort of keywords they're ranking for. And what we do, we typically tomb rate these people. And the tomb rating method is you go in, you check what they're ranking for, check out their articles, how long they are, is there room for improvement? And then we just improve them, make them longer. And with our age and authority, hopefully we will outrank them. And that's the whole goal. So yeah, these guys are covering interesting things. Very much like the restaurants that I mentioned earlier. Wendy's vegetarian burger, and I wanted to show you something here. Okay, vegan bakeries, vegan options. Yeah, it's the vegan options at certain fast food chains or certain food kind of places, big places, I would say. For example, what are the vegan options in McDonald's? What are the vegan options? Is Panda Express chow mein vegan? Which is generating 600 in volume. And Domino's vegan options, again, something we could definitely explore. Our Starbucks vegan and other stuff, Cheese Factory vegan menu. So we could do restaurants, we could do certain takeaways or fast food chains. And as I said, there's just everything you can think of has a vegan behind the word or after the word and question mark. So a lot that can be achieved. And yeah, this is another good example. Right, so this is the first one is done. This is the second site. Shall I just roll into the second one then?
Go for it.
Okay. So yeah, the second one is knackfashion.com. I'm into the vegan kind of mood today because I'm just covering vegan stuff. So as you can see, no animal killed, definitely vegan, screams vegan from miles away. But this is a good site because it kind of targets the
Sorry, that's my fault.
Sorry. I was like, what have I done? Yeah, this is a good site because it's kind of covering one type of area specifically on veganism. DR15, let's take a look at the backlinks. Okay, so we have Pinterest, which is good housekeeping, and then we have a couple of very popular kind of British newspapers. So the Sun, Metro, Standard, these are very, very big newspapers in the UK. So, as someone who lives in the UK, these immediately stand out to me because they're very high authority websites. And we have Harrow Bazaar, we have Vogue, Glamour, and a couple of more links down here as well. We have 136 referring domains and 109 of which are do follow. Now let's jump to the anchor text profile. So as I mentioned earlier, typically you would expect, if things are not true, you would expect to see that the top kind of anchor texts are at least branded or URL. As you can see here, it's URL. And this is exactly what we're seeing here. It's pretty decent looking anchor text profile. And basically this site was about shoes. So this was their own kind of brand on cruelty-free, vegan, vegetarian-friendly shoes. And that is why we're seeing here, where is it? Okay. Black shoe polish and knack trainers. That is why we're seeing shoes. And a lot of them are branded anchor texts, which I like. So nothing really that I see that's suspicious at all. So for me, it's a thumbs up, very, very natural looking and pretty looking anchor text profile. Okay, so in terms of the cleanup process, not a lot will be required once again. So the majority of the backlinks are pointed towards the homepage, which is good. And we have several pointed towards internal pages and kind of category pages specifically. So again, not a lot of cleanup would be required for us to retain the authority and the link juice, which is good. Okay, so first thing before I proceed to showing you the site as a whole, I just want to point out that this site won kind of an award. And for those in the vegan world, PETA or PETA, I'm just going to stick with PETA because I think I'm totally saying this wrong. So PETA is like one of the biggest kind of vegan websites that has the authority to rank specific products, whether they're cruelty-free, vegan, etc. So many kind of vegans refer to PETA for specific things. So if they've won a kind of an award for PETA or whatever, that means they've gained exposure. And maybe this could explain why they got some, backlinks from British newspapers, etc., or those high quality backlinks. Maybe that was the reason. Just guessing. It really doesn't matter. But just want to point out that these guys are kind of award winners. Okay, so this was a site. Very proudly, no animal killed. As I said, they're about shoes. And if you scroll down, you'll see pretty expensive shoes. And they had women, men, products, shoe care, about contact. And yeah, you could basically check out and buy your shoes. Very kind of tidy, clean site, really, that was about. Very expensive shoes, all apparently cruelty-free, some very vegan-friendly, and others are vegetarians as well, vegetarian-friendly. Now, where we could potentially take this site is there is a lot still that needs kind of, I mean, the vegan fashion itself is still growing. And as I said earlier with the last kind of site, more keywords will appear, more demand will appear, because veganism in general is like an upward trend. It's constantly growing. It's not just a fad kind of thing. It really is growing. And there's a lot that can be achieved. But the first place, obviously, I would like to begin is informational pieces of content on vegan fashion. For examples, are Nike shoes vegan? Is leather vegan, etc.? Like if you've been a Nike customer and if you've been someone who's been buying Nike shoes all your life, and then tomorrow you decide to go vegan, you'll be asking yourself the question, are Nike shoes vegan? And it's just a natural kind of question. But a lot of people are searching for these terms. And I want to show and just show you kind of what sort of. Okay, so not an incredible amount for this specific one, but these are low competition keywords we can target, and people are asking questions. And to begin with, because we're starting from zero, really, we have to build up the site. We'll be targeting low competition keywords anyway, and low kind of competition competitors as well that I showed you for the last site. So so these kind of related queries regarding to fashion that some people might be asking. And then we could expand to vegan products. So we wouldn't just do clothing, even though this site was about, like, I don't know, it's related to clothing. It's like shoes and, clothing in general. But we could definitely expand. We shouldn't just stick to clothing. It's too niche. Why couldn't we just expand? So we are going to expand, and that's part of the plan. So vegan products, sustainable clothing products. You will understand kind of why I am sort of showing you sustainability stuff here, because I've got a couple of competitors that I'm going to show you that are hugely into sustainability. And if you're a vegan in general, you're into sustainability, eco-friendliness, and probably about 90% of all vegans are, sustainability kind of minded people. They want to save the planet, they want to save the animals, and there is room in the sustainability world, and there's traffic to be made, and people are searching for these related queries, and I will show you later. But yeah, ethical clothing products, minimalistic clothing, vintage. Vintage is interesting because you might be thinking, well, really, is vintage actually that big enough to be a niche in itself or to be contributed within this site? It is. Vintage is absolutely very, very big market, and there's huge market for this at the moment as well. And I think vintage in secondhand clothing is growing as well, because if you think about it, it kind of falls into sustainability, because secondhand clothing, you're someone who wants to go out there and get some old clothes and instead of buying constantly new clothes, I suppose. And green clothing, products, and beauty. Okay, so the first, I will show you first kind of what sort of we could do with, especially with vegan leather, because vegan leather is kind of really popular. I don't know why in the vegan world, everyone is obsessed with vegan boots, vegan leather, etc. So here is kind of what we have in mind. And we have not an exceptionally strong kind of volume, but remember, this niche is still growing, and with time, I believe this volume will increase as well. So here's what we got. I've filtered a couple of things and put on questions, and we have how to clean vegan leather. So let's say we're managed to sell someone a vegan leather jacket, and we have a section that says how to clean a vegan leather jacket, because people will be asking this. And as we're seeing here, they are. How to make vegan leather, why not? How to clean vegan leather Tesla leather seats. Not sure whether this is a bit too far off topic. How to wash vegan leather, again, we could easily do that. How to stretch vegan leather, again, we could do that. How to clean vegan leather shoes, again, we could do that. And yeah, I think there is a lot of things that we could do, especially with the leather. Okay, so the first competitor I would like to show you is the sustainablelivingguide.com. And this is where all of this is gonna kind of make sense. DR19, 39,000 according to Ahrefs, and let's take a look at what they're covering. First and foremost, as you can see, they haven't got many pages. They only got like 156. So that's good. And let's take a look at what they're doing. So they fall heavily into sustainability because we're looking at recycled clothing brands, fashion brands, fast fashion brands to avoid. Now, if you think of places like Primark or other fast fashion, cheap, people buy, and they wear it once and they go back and buy. And that's what, fast fashion is. And it's bad for the environment. So we're seeing here that 1,200 people are looking for these fast fashion brands to avoid, because they want to help the planet. They want to stop this constant wastage and all that sort of thing. What else have we got? Okay, so because we're going to be covering about clothing and fashion and all sorts of things, natural fiber clothing, we could definitely cover these related terms as well. Vegan women's slippers, again, this could something definitely is going to fall into what we're going to do. Okay, this might be a bit too far off, but why not? We could do that as well. Okay, and then minimalistic clothes brands is where we go into the minimalistic here. So, yep, there was that. Zero waste, laundry detergent. I mean, again, if you're into sustainability, you'll be asking yourself these questions. So, yeah, I thought this site was a really good example because, as I said, vegans fall into sustainability and eco-friendliness. So I think this is an interesting site. Okay, so the second site I'd like to show you is a site that is performing really, really well, and obviously is a bit of much higher authority than us. But I just want to show you that the vintage space really is a space that can make quite a bit of traffic. And we're not talking a site here that has like DR7, DR80 that's really, really hard to get and that is absolutely dominating the space. We're talking about a site kind of in the middle. It has a decent amount of DR. I'm not saying it doesn't, but it's generating a pretty good amount of traffic. So let's take a look. Okay, so first and foremost, I'd just like to point out the volume of all these kind of keywords. So the vintage space is massive. We have 27 here, 67. Just look at them. These are a lot of volumes, and these people are generating quite a lot of traffic, which tells me they are making money, whether it's through display adverts or they are selling these things. They are making money, and there's definitely a lot of kind of can be achieved within the vintage kind of niche as well. So let's see what else they have. Vintage clothing stores. We could do, again, listing types of content. For example, 10 best vintage clothing stores in Denver, 10 best New York vintage clothing stores. Definitely something to consider here. And just look at this. It's crazy. So much volume. So yeah, I just wanted to show you quickly what can be achieved and what really is a real thing. These guys are doing this traffic for vintage relating queries. So very impressive. Okay, and the final example I'd like to show you is the sustainablejungle.com. This site is really high authority, but I still want to kind of show you what can be achieved within kind of sustainability, eco-friendly types of things. And as we can see, eco-friendly I'm totally pronouncing this wrong. Zero waste laundry detergent, eco-friendly phone cases. This is just really, 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 we're falling really into the green kind of sustainability type of thing. And just this in itself, this is really just in itself is a big niche in itself. And if we can combine, we can make this site a super site that does all sorts of sustainability, all sorts of different fashions, from being minimalistic to being eco-friendly, and all sorts. We could make this site really a very, very kind of authority of all the sustainability, vegan fashion, cruelty-free fashion, all that sort of thing. Okay, we have bamboo socks, shampoo, sustainable, non-binary clothes, eco-friendly wallets. Again, this is just an example of what can be achieved. And I just want to point out quickly that this site only has like 415 pages as well, and it's generating that much traffic. So yeah, this site is a lot that can be achieved. And when I was looking for competitors, I couldn't really find many, which is, in a way, it's good, because, as I said, vegan fashion is still, vegan niche in itself is still fairly new, but it's growing, and I think there is still room to get in it and grow with it. And this is me.
Awesome. That was really good.
I'm on mute.
Could tell you're passionate about veganism, to be honest, Eleanor.
I know, yeah, I've known the niche for a while, so.
Yeah, definitely.
Good job. Yeah, so those sites, we always forget to say this, those sites are both available on the Niche Website Builders website, if you're interested in picking up. Chris has also put a link into the chat. We're also selling a bunch of them as a portfolio pack, if you like, and there's those two and another one in the pack. So go and check that out if you're interested in getting a few sites in the food/vegan kind of space. Kylie says thank you, Kylie. One question from Maeve. So this is based on your presentation, Adam.
Yeah. How would you value a site just 6 months old and only now monetized? The honest answer is you probably wouldn't. Most people are not going to buy a website that's 6 months old and there's no earning revenue. Even if it was 6 months old and it had earning revenue, like, one, why would you sell it? Because probably not earning a lot of money and it's on an upward trajectory, I imagine. And two, like, most sellers are just not going to buy a site that's only 6 months old. So you'd have a hard time, I think, selling a site like that, Maeve.
Yeah. I think what value you're getting out of that as well. Like, someone else has set it up in a way that you probably wouldn't have set it up. You're only saving 6 months of time just setting it up yourself in the first place. So yeah, if you really were sold on it or had to, I think the best you can do is say, whatever, put a value on how much the content is worth and the site builder is worth, and say you'll pay that for it and no more, basically.
Yeah.
I don't think you can kind of start to expect until the content's proved itself. Yeah. Oh. Kaylin, mine equals blown. I don't know what she's referring to there. Must be our
Elena.
Yeah, I think so. Well done, Elena. Elena. I know. I've been trying to convert myself after the proper pronunciation, and I'd say half and half.
It really doesn't matter, honestly. Please don't worry. It really doesn't matter. Adam, I have a question actually on your.
Before you go there, Elena.
Yeah.
Elena. Hit the like button. Tony said last week, stop giving away merch until you've hit the 35 likes. So we're not going to do it until we've got 35 likes. So if you want to get some merch today, we've got 6 more to go. We're at 29. So hit the button. Otherwise, we're not going to do the draw. We're going to stand firm.
Yeah.
Sorry, Elena. Go for
No
it.
worries. Have you ever sold a site with like a YouTube channel or like a big social kind of platform? And how would you evaluate that? Like, how much more money would you add?
I've not sold a site, but I bought a site that had a Facebook group and a YouTube channel. They were massive. I think the Facebook group had about 1,500 members, and the YouTube channel had roughly the same number of subscribers, maybe, or something like that. But I definitely paid a higher multiple than I normally would because it came with those for two reasons. One is the YouTube channel wasn't monetized, but it was eligible for monetization, so that was like a quick win to put that on. And then the Facebook group was really low maintenance in this one. It wasn't something that the guy was maintaining. It was like the people in the space are really passionate, and they were self-moderating the group. Essentially, it was one moderator, but it's just a group basically where people are sharing photos of and things like that. So it's really low touch point, but I know it's valuable if you ever wanted to do something with it. I haven't done anything with it, and I haven't added new videos to YouTube either. So those two channels have just been sitting there, but I still place the higher value on them. And when I come to sell it, I still place a higher value on selling the site with those assets as well. And that would be reflected in the multiple that I would want for the site, essentially, on the multiple that I paid.
Interesting. Cool.
It's hard to value them, and I think it depends on the amount of traffic, the amount of people in the group, how active the group is, or how the channel is if the YouTube's monetized already, like what revenue is it bringing in, how active, and are you converting those people in a Facebook group or whatever to people that are coming to your site and you're getting either ad revenue, or are they converting to, buying products or whatever. So I think you have to take it on a case-by-case basis for most part. It depends, of course.
That answer every time. Depends.
All right. Excellent. So, we're 32. We're 32.
Oh.
Man.
Oh, thank you.
Come on. Three more. You
Live.
got lots of fans now.
Oh, thanks, guys.
I
Thank you.
How many wants to work
you've
out?
got a site on Mediavine in 6 months. That's impressive. If you've sites on Mediavine within 6 months.
Okay, yeah. So,
Wow.
yeah. So within a few months, you'll be able to. Wow. Yeah.
But I would say if you got your site onto Mediavine in 6 months, it's probably on a very big upward trajectory. And you probably, I know you might be theoretically, maybe just start thinking theoretically, how much is my site worth? But I definitely wouldn't sell it at this point. I remember I always tell people I sold my first website way too early. Like, it was on an upward trajectory and I sold it. And I actually know the guy that I sold it to, and he sold it a couple of months later for like another, I can't even remember the number now, 20 grand or something like that. Literally 3 months later. What's going on? So yeah, don't sell it. Well, yes, $100 a day. That's really impressive, Nave.
Wow, is that on Age Domain, or is that can't be Fresh Domain? Surely.
In that case, mate, forget everything I said. I would like to buy your.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah. That's great. That's amazing. What a mate.
Yeah, it is.
Well, that's all the hints and tips from the Niche Website Builders YouTube channel, of course, that we've got Maeve. That's where she's at. So, Chris, if you bought a site on Mediavine or AdThrive, do you automatically get in? There you go. Even if you, yes, go on.
I'm not sure with AdThrive. I know with Mediavine, it's not automatic. You have to reapply, but they kind of bring you in. The only case where that doesn't happen is where the old owner applied when they had more than 50,000 visitors, for example, or it's their second site and they only had to have 25,000 visitors to get in there. And then you go and reapply and they say, wait, the site doesn't have 50,000 visitors. So no, we won't accept you. So if you buy in a site that's on Mediavine or AdThrive, unless you've already got sites with them, I would make sure that it still meets the minimum requirements for Mediavine or AdThrive. You're going to have to reapply.
Yeah. Cool. And
get on it.
Yeah, Maeve's got stuff sitting in draft. Get it published, yeah. Awesome. Okay. All right. Thanks again, Eleanor, for doing this. That was really good.
Thanks,
thanks,
it's going to
Adam.
become a part of the show now, isn't it? Every Thursday, Eleanor's going to come.
There is, yeah.
Going to come on and do our age domain teardowns for us.
Yeah, so do you want to talk about next week's show? So we've got a guest, haven't we? Because I'm on holiday next week. So
we have Mike from Below Average Blogger is coming on. We've been working with Mike on an age domain project. So if you want to find out how that's going, it's going, spoiler, it's going quite well. Go over to Below Average Blogger. I think he's got 2 videos out and he's just about to put out the 3rd video on an update on that. But Mike is going to come on and we're going to talk about keyword research, because I spoke to him recently and asked him how he does his keyword research. And he said he takes a little bit from everyone and turns it into his own ways of doing it. So I'm interested to find out what he does. He does a little bit of tomb raiding, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and he's got his own way for coming up with keywords. So we're going to talk about keyword research, ask him about his projects, see what kind of cool stuff he's working on, and obviously we're going to do our age domain teardowns as well.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that's so true, Maeve. Like, yeah, like you always get ideas from the teardowns. I think even if it's not the same niche, kind of sparks little thoughts in your mind. So yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're not doing the draw at 32 still, but I'm just going to show what you could have won because we've got to show the picture of Carly now. It's at least that she sent it, right?
See what you're missing, everyone.
You too could look as
full screen.
Cool. Yeah, you could look as cool as Tony, Tiff, Ian, and Carly, who's now sent over a photo. So lots of different color t-shirts, slightly different designs, mugs and caps. But we have to wait till next time because we're at 32 likes, I'm afraid. So next time, more likes, and we'll be doing the giveaway. But until then, until next week, have a great weekend. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, Elena. And we'll catch up next week.
Cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.